Welcome back to the Noble Pursuit podcast. I'm your host, Landry Coleman. Today, I'm joined by Joey Odom, a keynote speaker, the co-host of the Brave and Big podcast, and a former tech co-founder. Joey has spent years helping families think differently about technology, presence, and what it means to be intentional at home. In our conversation, we talk about fatherhood, the challenge of distraction in a world full of screens, and some practical ways men can become more present for the people who matter most. I think you'll be encouraged and challenged by this conversation. Here's my interview with Joey Odom. All right, Joey, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview with me. I really appreciate it. I was telling you a little bit beforehand that I like to have my guests introduce themselves because no one is better at telling their story than themselves. So if you could you just introduce the audience to who you are and what you do?
Yeah. Landry, it's good to see you, bro. By the way, you say me agreeing to do this. I'm thrilled. I've been so pumped for this, and it's been good getting to know you.
Thank you.
So again, my name's Joey Odom. I am a former tech co-founder. And today I speak on that topic, on technology and really our relationship with technology and then how it impacts our most important relationships. So the most important relationships in my life are my wife, Kristen, been married for 22 years. My son, Harrison, who is 18 years old, one more year of high school before he heads off to the great unknown. And then our daughter, Gianna, who is 16 years old, who is going to be a junior. So we're blessed to have those two. And if man, I would say just a quick mention on how I got here on the technology side is just a litany of failures as a young dad and a young husband of my phone relationship getting in the way of my most important relationships and feeling this need inside that just says, hey, I know what culture looks like. I know what society looks like. I know this is kind of the way of culture, but what if my family could be different? What if my family could be a 1% family? What if we could embed some practices and some habits to become a 1% family when it comes to technology? And bro, I'll tell you, and here's the hope. I want to start out with hope because when we talk about technology, it's easy to go negative. The hope is this is you don't have to do that much. Honestly, like there are a few small things you can begin to do in your life that will begin to dramatically change your relationship with technology and will begin to dramatically change your relationship with the people all around you. But what it takes is intentionality. What it takes is focus because here's the truth. This is the most hopeful opportunity any of us have that when we do these things, it will dramatically change our relationships. And the truth is that most people won't do them. That most people, the 99% of people, would hear a message like this and be like, that's a good thought, but it's not for me. Or you would talk yourself out of it, or you wouldn't go to the lengths that it takes to give yourself and give your relationships and give your family an unfair advantage and become a top 1% family.
So I was telling you beforehand that the first time I got introduced to you was actually when you did Liberty University's convocation earlier this year. And I remember like getting through that convo message and I was like, wow, this guy is a genius. I need to talk to him about
It must have been a different week.
about digital practices and that type of thing. Um, so for you, was there like one big moment? I know you talked about a bunch of little small things, but was there like one big thing that like just kind of smacked you in the face and you're like, wow, I need to change something?
Yeah, and I wish it were only one big moment. There were probably a bunch of big moments. There were certainly an infinite number of small moments, but the big moment that stands out to me was when my son Harrison, who I mentioned, who's 18, when he was 5 years old, playing his first soccer season, cutest little guy in the world, so kind, so sweet. And if you got a bunch of kids, you know that it's the sweet kids. The sweet kids don't score soccer goals. Have you noticed this?
Yeah.
So, so he's this sweet little guy. Everybody on the team had scored a goal except for Harrison this season. But then one random Saturday, ordinary Saturday, something extraordinary happened. Harrison found himself late first half, standing in front of the soccer ball with the goal in his sights, rears back that sweet little leg, kicks, and scores his first goal. And it's almost like you can almost picture the scene like a slow motion movie. And it's this big dramatic celebration. His coach runs out, lifts him up, and all this amazing stuff. And there was this little split second, Landry, in between the ball hitting the back of the net and Harrison's coach picking him up when Harrison did something that 5-year-old boys do. is he turned to the sidelines to lock eyes with me, right? To lock eyes with dad and to see all the pride, all the smile on my face, all of that, and to share that magical moment together. And honestly, bro, like it was magical, except for one small detail, which is that I missed it. That I missed every bit of what I just described. You see, when Harrison was turned to the sidelines to lock eyes with me, all he saw was the top of my head as I was looking down at my phone. So I missed every bit of that entire moment. And if you ask me, hey, what were you looking at on your phone that was so important? I have no idea. It honestly, it could have been an important work email. It could have been a group text. It could have been a funny video. It doesn't matter though, because no matter how important or how unimportant it was, no matter what was on my screen, it could not have been more important in that moment. And I had this little realization that, and really probably at the time, bro, it was just like, ugh, like that sucks. Like I can't believe I did that. But as I've spent more time thinking about that, and as I've spent a bunch, many years on this topic, the real truth is that I had a relationship with a device that I would have claimed was not valuable, but it was getting in the way of my most valuable relationships. And in fact, I bet you if we talk to anybody who's listening, certainly in Noble Pursuit podcast, or you or me or anybody you see at a men's conference or whatever it is, you would say, hey, list your most valuable relationships. And I bet you 100 out of 100 people would list their phone at the very bottom of their relationships. It'd probably be all humans, and then it would say your phone and it would be at the bottom. So we would all acknowledge this is our least valuable relationship, but it's having the greatest impact on our most valuable relationships. And there's a problem with that. And here's the thing, we could go with culture and say, like I said earlier, oh, this is just the way it is. But the promise here that I'll make to everybody listening is when you change your relationship with your phone, you will change your relationship with everyone around you. And that includes yourself. That includes your relationship with your spouse, your girlfriend, your roommate, your heavenly father, yourself. All of those relationships begin to change as you begin to change that relationship with your phone and your device.
So for guys that are self-aware enough to realize like the phone is becoming a problem or the phone already is a problem, what are some things that they can be doing to change that relationship that they have with their phone?
I think one big aha for a lot of people, I know this was it for me, is the actual fact that we have a relationship with an object. I think that's important for us just as a foundation to say, like, well, hold on a second. Up until about 20 years ago, when we would describe relationships, it was always with living things. And then all of a sudden, 20 years ago, we get an iPhone and we start saying we have a relationship with it. Like that's weird. And you look at the science of it and childhood development and all this stuff. It's actually reverting us back to childhood relationships with objects. See, children have relationships with blankies and binkies and teddy bears. Then there's a word for it that's called transitional objects or comfort objects. So a child clings to this object in the absence of their parents. In the absence of relationship, a child clings to this object to give them a sense of comfort. But it's just a phase. All of it, before long, the child realizes, I don't need my teddy bear to get by when mom and dad are gone. I can do this on my own. So they actually serve a pretty helpful purpose. But our phones have done something weird. Like they've reverted us back to a childlike state of relationship with an object, but it's a little bit different. So where children cling to an object in the absence of relationships, we cling to an object in the presence of relationships. So we will be with our child. Let's just say you're maybe in a co-parenting situation. Let's say somebody's in a co-parenting situation. They see their child every other weekend. Hold on one second. You got 48 hours, bro. You got 48 hours to be with your child, yet we're clinging to this object when we're with them. Or even in married situations. Let's say you work during the day and you have about 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night. We have 3 hours and we can't be away from this object for that amount of time. So I think it's because again, I don't want people to beat themselves up here because I don't think shame really goes anywhere. Shame's a good indicator. Shame's a good indicator, but a bad motivator. So I don't want us to go down a shame spiral here. I just want us to step back and recognize. By the way, quick side note, one great way to recognize this is by having the humility to hear the feedback of the people around us. If your spouse, if your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever, if they have ever said to you, hey, you're on your phone too much, instead of getting defensive, just listen to them and think, what if there's an ounce of truth in here? And then you can respond in a very, very amazingly productive way by just putting your phone aside. You actually bestow value on people around you when you put your phone away around them. You're telling them you have value to me. So the very first step, by the way, there's a lot, we can go in a lot of directions here, but I want just as a foundation to say, let's recognize we have a relationship with this object. Now, the defining characteristic of our relationship with this object, with our phone, is our constant proximity to it. So I'm gonna do as much as I can today, Landry, to simplify this into the most simple, most practical, actionable way. And it sounds obvious, but so we've agreed we have a relationship with an object. That's weird.
Yeah.
But here's what the relationship consists of. We're just around it all the time. When you're dating somebody, you always want to be around them. That's evidence of your relationship with them. You live with somebody, you're in constant proximity to them. So the fact that we always have our phones with us, that's the defining characteristic in a relationship with our phones. And the cool thing is, if you want to change it, the very basic step, it's going to sound so dumb and so basic, but just break your constant proximity to your phone for little bits at a time. 91% of us have our phones with us 24 hours a day statistically. 91% of us don't have to move our feet to reach our phones. So here's what's cool. You talk about trying to move to become a 1% family. Well, you can join the 9% today. This is easy. Spend 5 minutes apart from your phone. Go on a walk without your phone. Have a conversation while your phone's in a drawer. Hey, have a fun, quiet, or not a fun. It could be a fun, quiet time, but have a quiet time. Read your Bible, pray, whatever you need to do. Journal without your phone. All of a sudden, you just hopped from 91% to 9%. So let's simplify as much as we can. Like we as fellas like to do these big dramatic things instead of doing the small, unsexy, thankless things. This is one of those. And if you think about it like a muscle, like exercise, you build that muscle up over time. So please don't try to do 10 hours away from your phone today. If you've not done any time, do 10 minutes away from your phone in the moments. And the key is here is start with something that's greater than your phone. Like when you're having a conversation, then put your phone away. It's a lot harder to say, I'm going to put away my phone. Now, what do I do? But it's a lot better when you know that there's something greater on the other side. Oh, it's family dinner. What a great time to not have my phone. Oh, my wife said, can I talk to you? What a great time for me to not have my phone. Oh, my kid wants to play outside. What a great time to not have your phone. Look for all these moments, begin to break that. All of a sudden, you join that 9% club, and the people around you feel valued by you. So you're building a relationship and you start to build this beautiful, virtuous cycle that all started with something so dumb as just being apart from your phone.
So when you started trying to introduce some of these things to your own family, did you notice an immediate change or did it take some time?
Yeah, it sucked. It was terrible. Like it was no fun. Like I had there are these there's a stat from Dr. Gloria Mark. She's at UC Irvine, and she's the thought leader on distraction. She says that it takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to refocus after you've been distracted. So I heard that stat about 10 years ago, and I maybe 8, 10 years ago. When I heard that stat, I told my wife, I said, I don't think I've done anything other than sleeping uninterrupted for 23 minutes and 15 seconds in a row in years. And so it was at first, it was not comfortable. And I found myself just like anything. Like if you said, hey, Joey, you got to run a marathon in 6 months. I'm not running 26 miles today. I'm probably walking 0.26 miles. And then I may jog 0.5 miles. And then I may build up to a mile. You start going slowly. So why is this any different? So and one of the reasons why is a mindset around it is we all think like, well, I'm so addicted to my phone. Well, even saying you're admitting defeat, right? You're admitting your defeat, saying like, well, because the first step of a 12-step program is you saying I'm totally powerless. So when you say I'm addicted to my phone, you're basically saying I'm totally powerless to it. But what if I told you instead you just have bad habits? Well, I can do something about habits. Like that's okay. I can do that. You can habit your way out of you can habit your way out of this problem. I'm a firm believer in that. So, and I've seen it in my life. So the initial part was it was difficult for me. By the way, very important note for the fellas. Please don't mandate this to your family until you've modeled it yourself. You can't mandate what you haven't modeled. So let's model it well on a sustained basis. So just keep working at it. So it was a man, it was a long climb for me. Now, I was fortunate that I was in a business. We had a business all around this that was around spending time away from your phone. So it kind of was forced into being a focus. And over time, something that started with 5 minutes at a time, it would be so abnormal now for me to be watching a family movie with my phone. It would be so weird for me now to read a book and have my phone next to me. It's just so I've retrained myself, and my family has absolutely felt the fruit of that. My kids have seen me model that relationship, and so they mimic that relationship with my phone that I modeled. Certainly, we have corrections with them a fair amount of the time, but what's normal for them is actually you doing something without the distraction of your phone. So it's been a journey, bro. But like, if you can look at things over time, it's like that old Bill Gates quote: "People overestimate what they can do in 1 year, and underestimate what they can do in 5 years." So just if you look at it over a long time, I got a lifelong commitment to trying to be focused on the most important things around me. That's a lot better than saying I got to get better at my phone. I got to get dramatically better at my phone in the next week or so. No, you're on a lifelong journey. That's okay. This is what life is, just getting better a little bit every day.
Yeah, I think kind of going off of that too. Obviously, I think our faith plays a huge part in us like wanting to get rid of the phones as well because it like helps us to be able to focus when we're trying to spend time with God. So, have you noticed a change like when you're actually like doing the quiet time and that kind of stuff now that you've made this a priority?
Yeah, I mean, this is. I will say that all of these they just go in such tandem with each other. I remember a friend in college. Name is Kyle Stewart, is still a friend of mine. Kyle, I remember in college, he was so faithful doing his Bible studies every morning, having his quiet time. And I remember asking him about that. And he said, "Bro, if I didn't do my quiet time in the morning, I feel like I would self destruct." And I remember thinking almost thinking like, "Oh, that's good for you, but I can't really relate to that." And I have specifically over the last 5 years, my quiet times have been a really, really important piece of this. So, not coincidentally, as I put focus on changing my relationship with my phone, more time, a much greater part of my focus has been in building my relationship with the Lord, building that even stronger. And I'm telling you, my quiet times are an indispensable, just like Kyle. I think I would self destruct without my quiet time in the morning now. This idea that my friend Chris Hart says, he's my co-host on the podcast that we host together. He says you got to be selfish in the morning so you can be selfless the rest of the day. So having that quiet time in the morning, and I can't imagine what my quiet time would look like with my phone next to me. And here's why. Because I'm not strong enough to resist the pull of my phone. Bro, I've been thinking about this. I've been working on this for 7 or 8 years. And when my phone is with me, I'm really not that much better than I was 7 years ago. I've just learned that I have to have my phone away from me, that environment is stronger than willpower. So if I'm relying on my willpower to just magically overcome the allure of the ESPN app, like I'm going to lose. But if my phone's not with me, it is physically impossible for me to look at the ESPN app. So let's begin to curate our environment in alignment with our intentions. And that's the unlock. That's when you start seeing a bunch of change happen instead of just hoping that I don't look down at my phone. If I were a smoker, I would not carry a pack of cigarettes in my front pocket. I would do everything I could to be physically distant from them so that I can accomplish my goals by curating the environment that's around me.
One of the things I think about a lot as far as parenting goes and also trying to balance this whole digital world that we're in is how we balance protecting our kids while also preparing them to live wisely in this digital world. Do you have any suggestions for that?
Yeah, I think the science is showing that kids' brains are not equipped to handle all this digital stimulation. It's just not. And I know, man, I know it's easy to cave to the temptation of putting an iPad in front of your 2 year old or your 3 year old, or if your kid's whining in a restaurant to hand them your phone. I believe me, I have an 18-year-old and 16-year-old. I get that, but I'm just telling you, the data is the data is absolutely conclusive that that is causing damage to their brains. And what I firmly believe is that it's okay to be a little bit different. That we can manage our kids' lives a little bit different. The smartest people in the world, Jonathan Haidt, who wrote The Anxious Generation, is He's like the authority on this, and he tells us our kids' brains cannot handle unfettered access to a smartphone before the end of 8th grade. Period. And he even says that's the youngest, absolutely a youngest. That's the youngest they should have their phone. Now, the cool thing is this is that let's say you waited until after 8th grade. Let's say you even waited to your sophomore year. Justin Early, he and his wife, they have an organization called the Hang 10 Project, which is to get kids off phones till 10th grade. And what a great thing you can do. And then when you couple that with those standards, do it in community with somebody else, find a few other people who feel aligned with you. Then all of a sudden your kids don't feel like they're social outcasts because they're the only ones without a phone because you have a few people around them. And then you supercharge it if you are modeling this well. Because I don't care if you give your kid a phone at 5th grade, 8th grade, 10th grade, they're just going to mimic what you model. So we have this amazing opportunity to begin modeling this well as parents. This is the real key. Let's normalize good phone behavior. Let's normalize real relationships over phone relationships. We can start doing that. And when you do all three of those in tandem, I call this 248. Model it well for 2 years, band together with four of your kids, friends, families, and then wait until at minimum the end of 8th grade to give phones. By the way, I didn't do this myself. So let's be honest here. This is the the data is becoming more and more clear. Probably didn't have all that data at the time. I probably didn't have, we had just moved to different cities. We didn't have people to do this together with. So plenty of excuses there. But I'm just telling you, if you want to be a 1% family, this is what it takes. This is what it looks like for you to begin doing these sorts of things that may feel a little bit countercultural because it's the best for your kids. And this education, when it came to smoking, I'll use smoking again. When we learned that secondhand smoke was hurting our kids, smoking changed dramatically. We don't need any more evidence to show us that digital secondhand smoke is hurting our kids. So it is time for us as parents to act together.
I think one of the other unique things that we're going to be facing, or we're kind of in the middle of it now, anyways, is AI and just like the constantly evolving technology that it is. Is there anything that concerns you looking at that about the next generation?
I think so. This may go a little bit in the weeds, but when it comes to relationships, there's a framework that I've developed is called the PID loop. This is we built a relationship with the phones using this model. This is how we build a relationship with people. This is our relationship with God. It always begins with proximity, which leads to interaction, which results in dependence. So with friends, I'm not talking about toxic dependence. I'm talking about, hey, I'm running late for soccer. Can you pick up my son with a friend? Or I've had a rough day. Can we talk about it? So you start in proximity with somebody, you interact with them more, you depend on them, which leads you to be around them more in proximity. So that's the friendship loop. Same goes for God, Lord, just like Samuel, Lord, here I am type of stuff. You interact with God, you become dependent on him. Our phones introduced this same thing. This is how we form relationships with phones, but the intensity was on the proximity. We were in proximity with our phones all the time. As a result, we constantly interact with them. 89% of our smartphone usage is self-initiated. So it's because they're with us that we're looking at them. Proximity leads to interaction. And now we feel some dependence on them. AI is interesting because AI, where the intensity on the PID loop with phones was in proximity, the intensity now is with interaction with AI. So it's yes, we do have our phones with us, but when we're interacting with AI, that's what leads us really to dependence. There is that intensity of interaction. And what I have a concern about, am I concerned about AI things like like sex robots, which are coming? No, I'm not that worried about sex robots. It's weird. Yeah, there's a bunch of sci-fi stuff you can think of. What I'm really concerned about is how does this affect my family? How does this affect your family? How does this affect everyday people's families? So the concern I have with AI is this: is that our phones, they have limited our ability to feel deeply. That our phones, when we have bad feelings, we go to our phones. So our phones have limited how us our ability to feel deeply. AI is interfering with our ability to think deeply. So this idea of cognitive offloading, that these basic things that we'd use our reasoning for, I'm talking about not our kids, I'm talking about for me, I'm talking about for you, is that on things that I would have thought deeply on, or maybe even say, reading through the Proverbs in the Bible instead of like thinking deeply, allowing the Holy Spirit to guide us. We're kind of going there to tell us what it means. We're looking for the quick results. So that's a concern I have is our ability to really think deeply. And on top of that, anything that mimics human interaction, anything that like where we're relying on AI, we're speaking to them as if they are humans, which they are not. And so we have to be really careful. And when it comes to kids, and Jonathan Haidt warns about this in a TED talk from April that I'd encourage everybody to watch. Jonathan Haidt talks about this is that any AI device, tool, game, toy that presents itself as a human to your child, you should avoid like the plague. Stay away from it. Absolutely stay away from it because that interaction, back to PID loop, that interaction is going to become so insidious where phones have kind of displaced our need for real relationships. AI is going to replace our need for real relationships. We got to be really, really cautious about that.
For guys who are listening to this right now, if you could just hope that they get one takeaway from this conversation, what would it be?
5 minutes away from your phone today. I don't want, I'm not going to go like big existential. 5 minutes away from your phone today, looking in the eyes of someone you love, period. Tomorrow, 10 minutes. The next day, 15 minutes. Think of this like building a muscle and be okay with small incremental progress. Please start small, make it sustainable. Please don't go do 3 hours. It's not sustainable. Start a pace that you can keep up with. And guys, please just test me here. Try for a month. Five. I mean, you literally start 5 minutes, go 6 minutes tomorrow, whatever that is, and make eye contact. That's the key with someone that you love, or go have a quiet time, spend time with the Lord without your phone, and just please build up that habit. You will see. Don't even tell somebody you're doing it. And I guarantee you by the end of 30 days, guarantee you this, that somebody around you will say something about it. They will feel this. And it starts small and it has to be sustained.
So I like to ask every guy that I interview this question, and it's kind of going off a little bit of topic at this point, but I still want to ask it to you. Um, so one of the things I like to do is I like constantly like to ask myself, like, when I get to the end of my life, what is it that I want my kids to remember about me? And it kind of like helps me make sure that I'm on the course that I'm supposed to be on. So for you, when you get to the end of your life and your kids are sitting there talking about you, what is the thing that you hope that they remember?
Such a good question. I mean, it's one of those you just have to forces you into intentionality even by answering the question. In fact, it's probably I'm thinking as I'm talking, but in some ways it's like be really careful even about thinking about this because you put a bullseye on your back, like you got to go do it. Um, I mean, I think that it may sound a little bit cliche, but one that comes to mind right now is like my dad really saw me. Like my dad really saw who I was. My dad really knew me deeply. My dad could tell when there were deviations from my norm because he was so in tune with me. They just like my dad knew when it was time to press, when it was time to back off. My dad knew, but it all begins with seeing me. My dad really, really saw me and he knew me. And I think, as it relates to technology, this one's easy because where your eyes are going, it's so important. Are they going to your phone? Are they going to the people around you? So I mean, heck, it's even a challenge for me right now. I'm thinking about my daughter will be home in 30 minutes from work, and there's the opportunity. It's a daily opportunity for me to see her for a few minutes at a time a day, for a few minutes of time every single day. I'm curious, and you may have given already. What's your answer to that?
Yeah, I think mine is just that I was present. I just, like I, I think I told you a little bit about this beforehand, but I like grew up in a single mother household. So for me, like the big thing that I just want my kids to remember is that I was there and that
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't give up on their mom. I didn't give up on them and that
Mm,
dad's in it for the long haul. Like he's not going anywhere.
my brother he works for a big organization. He's worked there for 25 some years, and he became a partner very young at this business. And he was interviewing somebody, and this person asked them, they said, "Hey, what did you do to become a partner at such a young age at this organization?" And my brother said, "Every day I've worked here, I've come in the morning and not turned in my 2-week notice." And so I don't want to be overly reductive or overly simple here, but what you just described, what I just described, is so freaking easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. Yes, it's strenuous. Yes, there are hard days. Yes, if you have young kids at home, you are in wartime, 100%. But what we just described, bro, is let's reduce it, let's simplify. Just don't leave. Just look in their eyes. You're going to get through. God will give you a fresh batch of grace every single morning. So just give it hell today. Don't leave. Put your eyes on somebody else and do it again tomorrow. So let's not overcomplicate it. Let's just stick with those things. And I love the way you're reframing it, Landry. Let's begin with the end in mind, and then let's figure out the things on a daily basis we need to do to accomplish that end,
Yeah, I think our kids just really notice when we show up in the small things.
bro.
Yeah, like, I feel like, especially since I've been doing this, the thing I keep getting thrown at me, the quote is that kids spell love Time,
That's it.
and that's just something that I've just tried to put at the forefront of my mind is like, this is something that my kids actually care about, and so I need to be present in it, even if it's not something that I I
Hey,
immediately care about, but
it's that quote. Pay attention to the small things, because to the kids, it's always been big things. Like to them, it's big. To you, it may feel small, but then when they get older, they're going to talk to you about the big things because to them, it's always been big. That's such a huge deal, and just doing exactly what you said. It is time, and they are. You said it earlier. I love the word notice. My old business is called RO, which meant to notice. I'm a big fan of notice, and our kids are noticing machines. They will notice and they will adapt. So I'll tie it back to technology one more time. If your child has ever said to you, "Daddy, no phone. Daddy, put down your phone. Dad, you're always on your phone." I want you to please respond to that moment because they've noticed that. And then all of a sudden, they've adapted in their brains to thinking that's what's normal. So the day they stop correcting you for being on your phone, here's what that means. That means that they've noticed inside that dad's on his phone, that dad's phone is more important than I am. So I'm not even giving him a hard time for it anymore. So May 8th, 2020, my daughter and I, she was 10 years old at the time. She and I watched a movie together. This is right around the time we were starting our business. So I was more focused on it. We finished the movie. Gianna and I had watched 50 movies before. We finished this movie. She's 10 years old. She says to me, "Dad, did you know that's the first time we've ever watched a movie and you haven't had your phone?" So back to your word, notice. She had noticed for 10 years that I'm on my phone during a movie when we're trying to have a shared experience together. But she also noticed the first time I wasn't on my phone. So I wrote that in my journal. That's how I know it was May 8th, 2020. I wrote that in my journal, my 5-year journal. Fast forward 4 years, May 8th, 2024. I read that journal entry about Gianna saying that to me, and I asked Gianna, who was 14 at this time when I asked her about it, I said, "Hey, do you remember when we watched the movie and you said that's the first time I wasn't on my phone during a movie?" She laughed and she said, "Dad, it would be so weird if you were on your phone during a movie now."
that's awesome.
So, bro, think about it. We are shaping our kids' normal, small times, small things, small actions every single day. And 4 years may feel like a long time, but bro, that was still 2.5 years ago now. She's 16 now. And so we've set a template for her of what she should expect in relationships, but it starts with the small things, that putting your phone down during a family movie, putting your phone down when your daughter wants to talk to you, putting your phone down when your son is saying something that may seem like telling you about your dream or something boring like that, like the little things of looking them in the eye when they're talking to you, because that will pay dividends. And all of a sudden, you've lived a life that everybody else would like to be. And again, I keep going back to this 1% family. All of a sudden, you have 1% relationships, you have a 1% family because you focused on doing the 1% little things every single day.
So for the guys who've listened to our conversation today and they're like, "Man, I wanna know more about Joey, I wanna connect with him," how can they go about doing that?
The first place I'd have people go is to listen to my podcast that I co-host with my friend Chris Hart. It's called Brave and Big. Just search Brave and Big. It's how do you live a brave and big life? What are the small steps to live a brave and big life? That's one. The other one, you can, ironically, you can follow me on Instagram at joeyodom.life, at joeyodom.life. And that is also my website, which is joeyodom.life. So those three ways: podcast, Brave and Big, Instagram at joeyodom.life, and then my website, joeyodom.life.
All right, Joey. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I had a great time. I really appreciate it.
Landry, thank you, brother.
Thanks for listening to this episode. You can find out more about us by going to our website, noblepursuit.org, or by following us on Instagram at noblepursuitmen. You can find out more information about today's guest by looking in the description below.